Trump pauses Project Freedom, says final deal is close. Ramaswamy and MAGA win big, and the Hantavirus cruise with nowhere to go. Greetings, humanity! Let's grok the news, starting with the most important story in the world today. Dateline, Washington, D.C. President Donald Trump announced today that the United States is pausing its newly launched Project Freedom naval operation in the Strait of Hormuz, citing significant progress toward a potential final agreement with Iran to help end the ongoing conflict. Speaking from the White House, Trump said the pause comes at the request of countries like Pakistan and follows what he described as tremendous military successes against Iran, along with great progress in diplomatic talks. Project Freedom, which began just days ago, aimed to guide stranded commercial vessels safely through the vital waterway after Iran effectively closed it amid the war. While the pause is temporary, U.S. forces will maintain their blockade of Iranian ports. This development comes even as Iran launched fresh attacks on the United Arab Emirates, bombing an oil facility in Fujairah, and announcing plans to take control of Emirati ports. With what navy? With what air force? UAE defenses have intercepted most incoming missiles and drones, but a large fire broke out at a key petroleum industrial zone, injuring at least 3 people. Iranian officials have continued aggressive posturing despite the reported ceasefire framework. Oil markets reacted with easing prices on hopes of de-escalation, yet global energy concerns remain high. The U.S. has emerged as the world's biggest oil producer during this crisis, providing some buffer against supply shocks. However, jet fuel shortages have forced airlines to cut thousands of flights and hike fares worldwide, pushing average U.S. gas prices above $4.50 a gallon, and that's the highest since the Biden administration. Trump hinted that a complete and final agreement with Iran may be close, potentially addressing nuclear concerns and reopening the strait that carries about 20% of global oil and gas shipments. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has stated the offensive phase of U.S. operations in Iran is over, with focus now shifting to diplomacy and ensuring that nuclear material is addressed. Gulf states, however, have expressed concern that the pause could simply embolden Iran further. This observer thinks they could be right. You can't tell what these crazy mullahs are going to do. Analysts say this moment represents a critical pivot from military action to negotiations. Captains of stranded ships in the region have described intense pressure, with some vessels already guided out under U.S. protection before the pause. International reactions are mixed. Pakistan's prime minister expressed gratitude for the decision, while European leaders continue to navigate their own stances and otherwise dither, doing nothing amid energy pressures, doing nothing except criticizing America. I'm Robert Gardner, using Grok each weekday to truthfully summarize the news, well seasoned with my opinions. We review a roundup of the most critical reports in the world right after this. God with Us, the story of Jesus, is a blending of all the Gospels into one continuous narrative, missing nothing from the Savior's life. Inspired by the majestic text of the King James Bible, God with Us is adapted to modern language and formatted for very easy reading. It's a faithful paraphrase divided into brief stories fit for daily Bible study. This book was fully researched to present the story of Jesus from his birth to his ascension. Find God with Us by Me, Robert Gardner, at Amazon.com or wherever books are sold. Now we grok the headlines from around the world. Dateline Columbus, Ohio. Entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy has decisively won the Republican nomination for Ohio governor in Tuesday's primary elections, delivering a strong victory for the Trump-aligned candidate in this crucial battleground state. Ramaswamy's win highlights continued momentum for outsider conservative voices seeking higher office, as he outperformed expectations against more traditional Republican contenders and now advances toward the general election in a state that could shape national political trends. Dateline Austin, Texas. A new poll shows Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton maintaining a clear lead over incumbent Republican establishment Senator John Cornyn in the upcoming GOP Senate runoff, reflecting robust conservative grassroots support across the Lone Star State. The survey indicates Paxton's hardline positions on border security and legal challenges are resonating strongly with Republican voters, potentially setting up a major shift in the Texas Senate representation if the trend holds through the nomination process. Dateline the Atlantic Ocean near the Canary Islands and Spain. A suspected Hantavirus outbreak featuring rare human-to-human transmission has struck passengers aboard the luxury cruise ship Hondius, prompting urgent evacuations of at least 3 people and heated debates over whether the vessel can dock in Spain's Canary Islands. Regional leaders have voiced opposition to allowing the virus-hit ship to berth locally due to public health risks, while Australian and international health authorities monitor the situation closely. This observer wonders where Spain thinks this ship can wind up. Dateline Kiev. Ukraine has accused Russia of violating a unilateral ceasefire with deadly attacks that killed dozens in frontline areas, again escalating tensions in the protracted conflict, despite earlier hopes for de-escalation. Ukrainian officials reported intensified fighting and civilian casualties as both sides trade blame, underscoring the fragility of any temporary halts in hostilities. Dateline Pyongyang. North Korea has formally removed its long-standing goal of national reunification from its constitution, while state media prominently features the stylish outfits of leader Kim Jong-un's daughter, Kim Ju-ai, offering clues, they say, about possible future succession plans. She seems to be one sharp cookie. According to experts, this symbolic change signals a hardening of the regime's ideological stance toward South Korea, from a potential partner in reunification to an admittedly separate nation against whom they might launch war. This observer thinks that the experts are wrong, as usual, and North Korea removing this belligerent language from their constitution, which they have used to justify acts of war in the name of reunification. Well, this may actually be good news, signaling a more sane perspective for the fading hermit regime. Dateline Sydney, Australia. Australia is now set to repatriate 13 citizens with alleged Islamic State links from Syrian camps, according to government ministers, as the suspect in last year's Bondi Beach mass shooting faces 19 additional weapons and terrorism-related charges in court. The dual developments highlight ongoing national security efforts down under to manage both extremists and domestic threats. Dateline, well, this one's global. Airlines worldwide have canceled more than 13,000 flights in the month of May and raised ticket prices sharply as jet fuel costs soar due to the reported disruptions from the Iran war. This is creating widespread travel chaos and higher expenses for passengers, carriers reporting severe supply chain strains with no immediate relief in sight. Dateline, Vatican City. Pope Leo has reaffirmed his mission to preach peace worldwide, and this is in direct response to recent criticisms from President Trump after Pope Leo criticized the president. This is while preparing for a 10-day tour of Africa to spotlight humanitarian needs on the continent. The new pontiff stressed dialogue and compassion amid global conflicts. Dateline, New Delhi. 3 years of bloody ethnic conflict in India's Manipur state continue, with unknown killers targeting civilians, as the country's most prominent female politician, Mamata Banerjee, battles for political survival in upcoming elections. The violence has displaced thousands and exposed deep communal divisions in the world's largest democracy. Dateline, London. Catherine, Princess of Wales, a very popular royal, is scheduled to resume overseas royal visits with an upcoming trip to Italy as she gradually returns to public duties following her recent health challenges. The visit marks an important step in her recovery and her continued role representing the British monarchy internationally. Dateline, Washington, D.C. A congressional ethics probe is targeting Republican Representative Chuck Edwards over unreported personal gifts, letters, and travel expenses. The usual sort of thing that politicians do. Well, this is according to some detailed reports, while Trump-endorsed candidates, meanwhile, continue scoring primary victories in various states, including Indiana. Dateline, Jerusalem. Israeli Defense Forces have conducted strikes on 25 Hezbollah targets and killed terrorists in southern Lebanon over the past day, maintaining pressure on the group amid broader regional instability linked to the Iran conflict. Operations continue despite fragile ceasefire dynamics in Lebanon as Israel fights to destroy Iran's proxy terrorists, Hezbollah. Dateline, Beijing. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has held high-level talks with his Chinese counterpart, Wang Yi, in Beijing, as China engages diplomatically to influence outcomes in the Middle East crisis. The meeting underscores Beijing's growing role in regional mediation efforts after Trump had pretty much cut them out of power. Dateline, Washington, D.C. America is preparing for Rededicate 250, a major national day of prayer, worship, and thanksgiving on the National Mall to mark the country's approaching 250th anniversary by reflecting on divine providence throughout the history of the nation. Organizers expect thousands to gather for events emphasizing faith, gratitude, and national unity as part of broader 250th anniversary celebrations. Well, I'm looking forward to that, and I thank you for listening. Please join me tomorrow to once again Grok the News. I'm Robert Gardner. Godspeed, and God bless.